All right. Hello and welcome to today's training. So my name is Matt Cotty, for those of you that don't know me, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I'm the founder of Restored Minds and the creator of the AAA response. And so today I want to talk about just a real simple subject, really. And it's just this idea of we need to stop focusing on how in order to recover. This may seem backwards and paradoxical and kind of like, well, what are you talking about? Like, it seems like one of the hardest parts about OCD and anxiety recovery, and I wouldn't say hard, but the most kind of I like paradoxical parts is that we assume that we're going the right way, right? Like the hardest thing about breaking beliefs and speak of breaking beliefs, if you guys haven't signed up for the free training I'm going to be running, I'm sorry, not the free, the workshop I'm going to be running, which again is a paid workshop, but it's going to be happening next Friday and next Saturday. And so there's a two-day workshop that I'm going to be doing, and I'm going to be talking about beliefs, as a big section of it. So please make sure to register for that if you haven't already. Just wanted to say that real quick. One of the most challenging parts of OCD and anxiety recovery, though, is that we operate from a certain level of we assume that we're going the right direction. We assume we know what to do, right? We assume whatever we're doing is the right thing. And the assumptions and beliefs that we carry into this often keep us stuck because we just assume that we're doing the right thing. One of those things is, and so we'll just talk about just one aspect of this today. One of those things is focusing on how. So again, this is a rhetorical question, right? But how many times have you found yourself searching for the next grand thing or reading that next book because you're looking for that one little tidbit clue, that one how to, whatever it is, how to get rid of intrusive thoughts, how to stop anxiety, all this stuff. You're focusing on how. And you're trying to find that magical how that's just going to give you everything you want. I know for me, I did this for a long time, right? And this is, or when, right? These are two questions that get you stuck, right? So Tony Robbins famously said, right, the quality of your life is going to be determined by the quality of questions you ask. And I think that applies perfectly to, OCD and anxiety recovery, right? Because when you're talking about, okay, like, again, we just assume that we're asking the right questions, right? And like that's such a bold assumption, because if we're getting the same results by doing the same thing over and over again, and we find ourselves keeping stuck in these loops, perhaps it's time to look at what we're doing. You know what I mean, on a bigger picture. And one of the problems with focusing on how, like the dare I say, the process or when this is going to happen, is it perpetually puts you in a state of doubt and uncertainty and questioning, right? So if someone teaches you about, let's just use the common things that we talk about, right? Because we're not going to talk about AAA response on this. I'll talk about it more in depth on the workshop coming up. But so you read about OCD and anxiety recovery, and then someone, you come across literature on exposure and response prevention. And this is a good example of focusing on how. And you're like, okay, exposure and response prevention. And immediately what your mind's going to do is like, well, I don't think I can do this. This isn't going to work for me. There's no evidence that this works for my specific fear. I don't know how I'm going to do this for my fear. I don't know how I'm going to do an entire hierarchy. I heard about these level 10 hierarchies that seem impossible. There's no way I'm going to do it. And then we get so focused on how, right, that we just don't even act. It paralyzes us. It creates so much doubt, uncertainty, and that essentially we just don't do anything, right? I don't know if you can relate to that, but I know I can. And when I reflect on my own journey. So then the question is like, okay, but by perpetually focusing on how, what you need to understand is it's always going to wind you up in a state of doubt and uncertainty. That is so critical to understand. That is that how will lead you to doubt and uncertainty, because you want to know the whole story before you take the jump. That's what wanting to know how is, right? It's like, I want to know exactly what's going to happen here before I even decide to commit to this in any state. And then the mind comes up with all this doubt, uncertainty, and confusion. And then we just don't do anything. So then we look for the next how. Well, this how doesn't work, or act, or mindfulness. And what we do is we kind of, and I'm saying we as a collective, this is like, these are what common things that people do, right? That I did, that other people do, right? So this is kind of what I see all the time. And this is why when you focus on the questions of how, this is what's going to happen, is that you're going to hear about something, whether it is ERP, ACT, mindfulness, right? It doesn't really matter, right? Some sacred dance in the jungle. I mean, it doesn't matter what. Now I will say certain modalities are going to be more effective than others, at least according to research and proven techniques. But anyways, we're always searching for how, and we dabble our feet in it, and then we doubt, and then we pull back. Oh, let's see, that didn't work. I tried it for a day, or I tried it this long, and yeah, it just didn't work for me. I must have a unique case. This must not apply to me. I must be this, out of every single person that has this, I must be this anomaly over here where nothing works. And this is, I believe that for myself at one point, right? I mean, like, this is common language that we end up catching. And then, or we get caught up on when. So when is just another long, how long is this going to take? So when am I going to be exactly where I want to be? And we want to know those answers. And by focusing on these two questions, I'm telling you, this keeps us stuck. And it's so paradoxical, right? Because it's like, essentially, by focusing on how, by focusing on when, it prevents action, right? And the only way to overcome fears is through action. It's not through thinking. You will never outthink your fears, right? Mark Freeman said in one of his videos, who's another guy who posts a lot of great stuff on YouTube, and I don't know the other channels that he operates on, but I'm sure there's several. But he said, you can't outthink a thinking problem. And like, it's just so true. You can, and Einstein famously said, right, you can't solve a problem from the same level of consciousness which it was created. Why would you think you can solve a disturbed mind from a disturbed mind? Right? Like, and this is just so important to understand, because again, we're trying to solve it with how and when. The questions we need to shift to, right? So instead of stop focusing on how and when, the questions that we need to shift to instead are things like, okay, who do I need to become? Or no, like, let's start with a better question. Why do I want to do this? Most people, you ask them, when they're struggling, of course I want to get better, Matt. Right? Of course, because I'll ask them direct. Hey, like, is this something that you really want to recover from? Yes. And we just assume that yes. And you go, okay, why? And crickets, no answer. It's just this assumption. Of course I want to, have good mental health. Okay, why? Sit with that first. Like, get clear on that. Why do you even want to do this work? Most people have no real clear, concrete understanding of why. They just assume, right? That what they're doing is they're running from pain and trying to avoid the pain and discomfort of what they're experiencing, with no clear idea of what they really do want, right? Like, wanting the elimination of pain, or the elimination of anxiety, or wanting the elimination of intrusive thoughts is not enough to propel you to do the work you need to get better. But it's important that you understand that, okay? Wanting the elimination of discomfort is not enough. You have to know why you want to do this. And what I mean by that is, what do you want your life to look like at the end? And I'm not talking about goals. Don't like, and then please check out the last episode if you haven't yet on the idea of goals versus intentions and why you shouldn't set goals. So, and again, getting to the place of zero, right? Because it's like, think about it like this. If we set the goal of like, I just want, again, stillness, right? Or I just want to have some peace of mind. I just want to be balanced. That's kind of similar to the idea of saying, hey, I'm $15,000 in debt and I just want no debt. That's no debt is better than, again, not like having a bunch of debt. I acknowledge that I've been in debt before, right? So it's like having that zero balance is nice, but then it's like, you're still at zero, right? And it's better than being 15K in debt or whatever. But then it's like, what do you want beyond that? No one should just want $0 in their account, right? And this is the equivalent of saying, hey, I just want the elimination of this feeling or these thoughts. It's a low goal to set, is what I'm saying. And it's not going to fuel you enough to wake up and do the work, because you have to realize what you really want on the other side of that. And what is it that you really want? Do you want the freedom to go travel? Do you want the starting a family, or being more involved with your family, right? A marriage, right, that you want to build, right? I mean, a work that you want to do. And this is what I mean. Instead of just let's eliminate the negative, excuse me, we want to focus in shifting into what's the positive that I want at the end of the tunnel. I hope this makes sense, because focusing on how, what you're really doing is you're limiting the scope of focus as to, hey, like you're really still focusing on the idea of the problem elimination. This is why I believe so much in solution focused work. And this is why the AAA response is all about solution focused, right? And it's not just about getting back to baseline. It's about like, hey, how do I create the life I really want? So the first thing you need to start with is saying, hey, why do I want this? And not going problem focused, but like at the end of the road, what is it that I really want? Why do I want this? If you want peace, why do you want the peace? Right? What is that going to do for you at the end? And then the next question is, again, who do I need to be in order to make that happen? So, getting married is one thing, and then having a great marriage is a totally different thing, right? Getting married is not hard. It's just like it's a one-day event. You plan for it. It's fun. It's a great time. And then having a good marriage, though, after that requires you to be a certain way, right? And if you want a good marriage for the long run, using this in a, kind of a parallel here, who do you need to be to make that happen, right? And what does someone who recovers from this actually do? Are they committed? Are they responsible? Do they take it? Do they prioritize it? And are you doing those things in your day-to-day life? Or is it like, hey, I know I'm supposed to do this work, but I don't really feel like doing it today. Right. And really just getting very transparent and honest with yourself. If you're focusing on how, and you're bouncing around from technique to technique and person to person, book to book, it's like, okay, I understand. I did that for a long time. And yes, there are certain techniques that I believe are better. Like, I obviously really believe in the AAA response, because the thing that I think it provides is making sure that we're not doing any of the mental behaviors that most people do unknowingly. Right. That's why I believe that. But also we utilize ERP, we utilize ACT, we utilize meditation, mindfulness, all this stuff. It all has its place. But thinking that you're just going to insert a magic technique in, and that's the how, and all of a sudden everything's going to just resolve. It's like, no, like that doesn't, my experience doesn't work like that. So in the reason that I really want to like articulate this today is because when you are, when you're really struggling, it's so addictive to bounce from thing to thing to thing and convince yourself that you're doing productive work. It's so like you can dilute yourself essentially, or like, it's like self-delusion. It's like it's the same thing as like people think that going to therapy is the same thing as doing therapy. I know people that have gone to therapists for 7 years talking about the same thing over and over again and never gotten anywhere. Because you're not actually doing the work that you need to get better. Right? Like that, and those are the difference. Going to therapy and doing therapy, very, very different things, So, and this is the idea of like searching for the how is kind of like that. It's like, okay, I need the magic pill. I need this magic thing. And it's like, it's a matter of, yes, you do need the right tools. I totally acknowledge that. And it's true. You do need the right tools, the right guidance. But at the end of the day, once you've established that, then you got to do the deeper work of saying, hey, why am I going to wake up and do this today when I don't want to? Who do I need to be, right, in order to make this happen? These questions, by shifting from how and when, like, hey, how do I do this, or all the nuances, versus and then when am I finally going to get the result? That keeps you in this state of paralysis by analysis, keeps you in the state of inaction. Why and what shift you into action, and action is what gets you results, in my experience. So when we're talking about like, hey, how do you like when you're talking about like, hey, look, like I want to really recover from this, and what does that mean? I want to take my life back. I want to be back in control of my life. Cool. It's great. It's absolutely possible. I believe that with pure conviction, because not only have I seen many, many people do it, I mean, I've walked through the process myself as well. And it's like I can vividly remember what it was like when I was really lost in the lens and really lost in those loops versus not. This clear as day distinction. It doesn't mean that I don't have thoughts that pop up in my head. Sure, that's a normal thing. It doesn't mean that I don't feel anxious in my body from time to time. That's a normal thing too. But when we're talking about getting caught in that loop, that's when things really get chaotic. And breaking out of the loop and taking back control of your life and taking charge to build the kind of life that you want to live is really the recovery process there. So, and in order to do that, you have to stop focusing on how. Okay, like there if you've read a bunch of literature on this and you've read endless amounts of books, you probably don't need to buy 5 more books. A lot of times just diving more knowledge and more is this idea that we're going to keep learning. And what that does is that actually keeps you out of the game. And I talk about this in my program and Taking Back Control, that there's these stages, right? That you can be on the sideline, right? You can be in the game and you can master the game. Those are kind of the phases that we're talking about here. When you're focusing on how and when, you're on the sideline. You got to get in the game. And only by being in the game can you master the game. So hope that makes sense, and I hope it's helpful. Because shifting from how and when to why and who, way more powerful questions that are going to produce way better results in your journey. So, with that said, like I said, I'm hosting a live workshop next Friday and Saturday. I'm going to be doing. There's a link down in the notes. That where you can get access. Again, it is a paid workshop. We are including a money back guarantee. So if you don't like it and you're not satisfied with the workshop, again, we'll be happy to issue a refund if for some reason you didn't find it helpful, which I don't think will happen, because again, the stuff we're going to be covering on is going to be deep and it's going to be powerful. And I'm really excited about it, actually. So So anyways, make sure to check that out and claim your seat if you haven't. And if you can't join us live for some reason, you'll get access to the replays as well. And that's it for today, guys. And I hope this was helpful and really shifting those questions, and really start. Hey, am I focusing on how? Am I focusing on when? How can I shift into why and who? And then by focusing on those 2 questions, the clarity of what you need to do from there will be much more obvious. So that's it for today. Wishing you guys a great week as always. Any questions, ideas for future episodes and stuff, always feel free to email or comment below, and we will see you on the next episode. Take care. Thank you so much for watching that video. And so if you're struggling with OCD and anxiety, I just wanted to let you know that we have a free training for you over at Restored Minds, where you can start learning how to use our AAA response to really break out of that loop and ultimately take back control of your life. And all you need to do to access is just click the little link below, and you'll be taken to a page where you can register today. Thank you so much.